Coming up this week on the Center of It All. Holidays bring families together. We visit two places that have been bringing their communities together with history for over 100 years. Mel prepares a Thanksgiving feast and I show you a quick craft to add to your fall decorations. Don't go anywhere, it's all right here on the Center of It All. Good morning and welcome to the Center of It All. Now, Center Furnace Mansion can be considered the heart of not just Center County, but Penn State University as well. We went to find out why and learn a little more about the history.
It's important to Penn State because this is where Penn State in some ways began. Basically, the documents that were signed that gave the state the land that is now Penn State were used to try to entice Pennsylvania to put the land-grant college here, and so there wouldn't have been a university. This was just farmland at that time.
Farmland that has now grown into one of the most known universities in Pennsylvania. And it was because of this building, the Center Furnace Mansion. The mansion was built in the late 1700s and was lived in right up until 1970s and early 1980s. Shortly after that, the Historical Society received the house and when restoring it, decided to go with a Victorian-era feel.
When people come in to visit the mansion, they're expecting to see a particular time period, pre-Victorian period into late Victorian period. And so they'll be able to see examples of furniture and decorative arts that would have been common during that period. Rather than trying to represent three different periods in architecture and objects, we've focused on that period.
Because the house is the focus of history and teaching people how important this house was and continues to be in the State College community.
For them to have an idea of where their roots come from. Also to understand that the life was different then than it is now. And I think it's an overall learning experience, and the feeling is it's one thing to read it in a book, but to actually come to a facility and actually see it. We're lucky enough to have a lot of the original furniture here in the mansion.
Original furniture, house decorations, and even the wedding dress that was worn by a daughter of the original family. Every corner, hallway, and staircase is filled with the history of Center County.
It really represents the beginning of industry in our area with the first iron furnace that was here.
History is important in general, and I think it's part of human nature to want to know where you came from, to know your roots, to know your past. And this is the past for Center County. This is where so much of, at least the Center region area, really got started. Be able to see how people lived back then, what tools they used, what progress they've made, what things we have today that were built on those tools from the past.
The roots of this town, the roots of this place, I think are really, really important to residents here now, even if they haven't been here for a long time.
And they bring the history to life with guided tours. Today, the mansion can be rented out for receptions, weddings, and fundraisers. It is still a very interactive part of society because for some, keeping historic buildings like this one alive is key, even as the community progresses into the future.
Not only in importance of why this is important, why Center Furnace Mansion is important, but why it's important to preserve buildings like this, whether they're used as a historic house museum or an office. No matter what a historic building is used for, it's always wonderful when they can be preserved and appreciated, and generations to come can get an idea of what the built environment of our county was like.
Because not forgetting the past is just as important as looking to the future. And that's what the hope is for the Center Furnace Mansion.
I hope they come away with an appreciation for the hard work that went into building this home and maintaining it, and the industry that went along with it, and also an appreciation for the lifestyle that the people had back then, what has changed, and also what has stayed the same.
The museum will be decorated for Christmas and open to the public the weekend of December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th for their stocking stuffer antique art and fine craft sale. When we come back, we jump on a train and head out to Altoona. Welcome back. The iron industry played a big role here in State College, but in Altoona, it was railroads. We head out to the tracks to find out a little more about the history behind the town.
Without the railroad, there would be no Altoona. Starting in the late 50s and the 60s, there's always been a movement here in town to let's save as much as we can of the heritage of the railroad workers, of the town. That was the greatest railroad town in the world at one time. The reason Altoona was here was because of the railroad, and that's what this museum celebrates, the life and times of railroad workers, the whole culture of being a railroad town. This represents a way of life that has just about disappeared from the world, disappeared from the country. We've tried to capture that here so you could step back and appreciate what it took 50, 60, 70 years ago for transportation, for railroading, and to work in the shops and work on the railroad. It's an era that has long gone, and it's an experience that people need to see, to realize, to appreciate what their fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers did and how they worked and lived in making this country great. Altoona was the heart and soul of the Pennsylvania Railroad. If you want to come and see the railroaders' experience, the shop workers' experience, the gritty blue-collar sweat and hard work that it took to run a railroad, to build things, you know, from scratch, from steel, through furnaces, through shops and things like that. This is the museum to come to.
When we come back, Mel shares a little extra something to add to your Thanksgiving table. Welcome back to the center of it all. Thanksgiving is all about delicious food. Let's see what Mel has to share that we can add to our holiday menu.
My favorite holiday is here, and I love the pomp and circumstance of preparing my family's Thanksgiving dinner. I've got a 19-pound turkey today. This one was frozen, and I've thawed it in my refrigerator for about 2.5 days. I've rinsed it, patted it dry on the inside and the outside, and I've put it on a sturdy rack in a big disposable aluminum pan, and I've added 6 cups of chicken stock to the bottom of this pan. It's going to create moist heat as the turkey cooks, which is going to keep the bird from drying out. You don't stuff your bird with cooked or uncooked edible food anytime. Just please don't do it. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't put anything in your bird, because a bird with an empty cavity is going to dry out. So what am I going to put in it? I'm going to put in what I call aromatics. A couple of sprigs of rosemary, 3, sometimes 4 small stalks of celery, half of an onion, and I like to finish it off with some Granny Smith apple. I've melted about half a stick, 3-4 tablespoons of salted butter, and I'm going to take all the time that's necessary to paint this bird with butter. This is all the basting you're going to need. Every expert in the world will agree that once your bird browns, basting helps it no way, no how. Another thing worthy of note, I've taken my turkey out of the refrigerator about an hour before it's going in the oven, because you really don't want to put an ice cold bird in the oven, or it'll immediately lower your oven temperature. Any butter I've got left, I'm just going to pour that over the top, let it drizzle down into the bird and down into the bottom of the pan. I'm going to give it a really nice, generous grinding of sea salt. And I like the coarse ground salt better than just, say, shaking salt and pepper. And a generous grinding of a peppercorn blend. You can use all black pepper if you like. Before I put the bird in the oven, I take a sheet of foil and I make what I call a little shield for the breast. And I kind of just form it a little bit so that it fits over the top. Now I'm going to remove this and I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to put this bird in the oven at 450 degrees for about 15 or 20 minutes. And when the breast starts to get a really neat golden brown, I'm going to open the oven door. I'm going to put that shield on the breast, which is going to keep it from over browning or burning and drying out the breast meat. And then I'm going to reduce the oven temperature to 350 degrees and let it finish cook. And this one should be done in less than 4 hours. This is my great Aunt Mary's recipe, and every year at Thanksgiving it was one of my favorite things on the Thanksgiving table. She started by baking 8 russet potatoes and scooping out the centers, and that'll give you about 8 to 9 cups of crumbly, smashed russet potatoes. And I actually baked my potatoes last night and scooped out the centers this morning because Thanksgiving is all about organization and getting things done in advance. I sauteed some celery and some onions with some butter, which is classic stuffing ingredients, and I added some poultry seasoning, some parsley, some salt, and some pepper. I'm going to get all of that stirred in. And of course, as our binder, as is in all stuffing, we've got eggs. And I've got 4 jumbo eggs. You're going to use 6 large eggs if you don't have jumbo eggs in your refrigerator. I just quickly whisk those together with a fork. Now I've got buttermilk here. You can use regular milk if you want, but I really like the tang of buttermilk. I'm just going to add about 1 cup to start. Now we're going to start incorporating breadcrumbs. And I've got about 14 slices of bread that I ran through the food processor yesterday. I'm using potato bread because it's a little bit sweeter than ordinary white bread, and it's what my Aunt Mary always used. And now I'm just going to add my 2nd cup of buttermilk, and I'm going to stir. But you can see I still have my container of buttermilk here because 2 cups is usually enough, but you know, the number of cups of potatoes you get out of 8 russet potatoes varies, and 14 slices of bread might give you a few more breadcrumbs here or there. So I always keep this on hand in case I need to moisten this with a little bit more liquid. I put the entire mixture in a 9x13 casserole that's been sprayed with no stick spray. I'm going to cover it lightly with foil. And I'm going to put this in a 325-degree oven, covered for about 45 minutes. Then I'm going to uncover it for about 15 minutes until it gets just lightly browned on the top and puffy in the center. This is not a casserole that you want to have really deep golden brown. That means you've overcooked it. We've got mashed potatoes in here, and we want to keep them nice and creamy. And I've melted 6 tablespoons of butter in a skillet here, and I've allowed it to get nice and foamy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add like half a cup of pepper, half a cup of flour, and a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. I'm not adding any salt and pepper to this, not yet. Now I'm going to stir this around until it gets really thick and pasty. The longer you can stir this without it starting to brown, the less of it gets rid of the flour flavor. So we're just going to let this go for another second. Move nice and fast here. Now I've strained all of those wonderful drippings from the turkey, all of that broth that we put in the bottom of the pan. I ran them through a fat-lean separator to get the fat out because we don't need the extra calories or the fat. And I am slowly whisking constantly, and I'm just going to bring this to a simmer. I'm going to keep stirring it almost constantly till it gets thick and smooth, and then I'm going to salt and pepper it to taste. And I'm waiting for the salt and pepper because these drippings are really flavorful from all the salt and pepper and from the turkey that already went in there. So we may not have to add any at all. I'm really good with salt, but I'm going to reach over here and I'm going to add some freshly black pepper. I'm just going to put a lid on this and keep it on warm until my casserole comes out of the oven, and then it's time to eat. Thanksgiving is all about sharing. Better said, it's all about being thankful for what you're given and sharing it with others. Family, friends, and yes, even strangers. Happy Thanksgiving. For these and all of my recipes, just go to my website.
Let us know what some of your Thanksgiving traditions are on our Facebook page. When we come back, I show you how to craft with a glue gun and a few leaves. Welcome back to the center of it all. So now that Mel has our Thanksgiving menu prepared, we're gonna talk decorations. Now today I'm gonna show you a quick and easy autumn kind of leafy candle that you can do. We're doing mason jars again. So first, we're gonna talk about what you need. So I got everything from the craft store. I got kind of just, a bouquet of fall flowers. You can do fake leaves or you can do real leaves. I tried the real leaves ones first and I found that they didn't stick to the jar as well, so then I went and got these fake ones and they worked so much better. So in my opinion, I would go with the fake leaves. Then you need a mason jar, some of this kind of decorative fall kind of straw stuff to tie around the top, some tea light candles, a glue gun, lighter, and some scissors. And that's it. So we're gonna get started. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of go through and just cut off some leaves from my little bundle here. I like to do kind of different sizes, so you see this one's kind of bigger, so I'm gonna maybe offset a little bit with this smaller one, kind of has some green and red, orange. But you can kind of do whatever size you want. So I like to just kind of cut a few. When you glue them on the mason jar, you don't have to overlap them. You can leave some space in the middle. Kind of makes it look a little more lifelike. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through, and it has these kind of plastic veins in the back. They don't stick as well, but they're kind of just glued on there. So I'm just going to rip them apart like that. So that way it's kind of just a plain back, front and back. So I'm gonna do that on all of them. So now we're gonna glue some leaves down. The nice part about this is you don't have to plan it. There doesn't have to be any reason. You can kind of just put them on there. So I'm gonna start with this, this bigger one. I like to start with the bigger ones and then kind of fill the smaller ones in. And I'm not gonna make it straight, so I kind of like to lay it out a little bit first, but then when I put the glue on, it kind of just goes all over the place anyway. So I'm just gonna put the glue right around the outside. Okay, and then you're just gonna kind of stick it on. And then you're gonna kind of press down around the edge. Be careful, the heat does come through these little thin leaves, and I have burnt myself. Okay, so then it's gonna kind of look like this. So I'm gonna pick, I might have to grab another leaf or two, but I'm gonna do kind of this brown one and maybe kind of put it the opposite way. I like to leave a little bit of space in mine. I like the way it looks a little bit, so I'm not going to completely cover the jar, but you can if you want. So the nice thing is that the hot glue dries almost instantly, so there's really no wait time. You can see that there's kind of, little flaps hanging out. That's fine because natural leaves, they don't lay flat anyway. So I'm just gonna kind of leave it like that. This stuff, I find it hard to work with. Maybe you guys won't, but I also got this at the craft store. So I'm just gonna kind of bundle a couple together. So there's maybe about 4 or 5 strands here. I like this kind of dark purpley color. There's also just the regular brown, which I used to, and I use both of them, but I really liked this color. Kind of has that little fall feel. So then I'm just gonna kind of pick the side of the jar that I like the most for the front. I think I like this side. Now we're going to get one of our tea light candles. Then you're just going to drop it in. And that's it. Now you can put them outside, you can put them around your home, you can put them on the table during Thanksgiving. My mom has them put up in our living room right now, but they're perfect for that autumn, fall, Thanksgiving feel. Right now, let's leave the crafts here on the table and head over to Nittany Beagle Rescue and see who they have for our pet of the show.
Thanks, Alicia. I'm here from the Nittany Beagle Rescue with Princess. She's the only beagle we have at the kennel right now, so she's desperately in need of a foster home. She's a very sweet girl. She just had a vet checkup. She got spayed. She had her teeth checked out. She's very healthy. She's a very sweet girl. She likes walks. She's good with people. She's okay with other dogs. She's good with kids. We just really want her to get in a foster home now because she's all by herself at the kennel. She's good in the car. She gets excited for car rides, and she is very well behaved in the car as well. She just lays down and gives you those big innocent beagle eyes. So if we could get her fostered, that would be really great.
That wraps up this week's Center of It All. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a happy Thanksgiving.